everyone. I'm Katie McManus, business strategist and leadership coach. I'm here today with Maria Gerea, who is an incredibly creative executive leadership coach. Maria, thank you for being here with me today.
Thanks for having me. I'm
Yeah.
here, and as you, I'm so excited. It's been a long time coming, right? I think
Yeah,
over a year
over a year. Yeah.
of
Well,
doing
I'm
a
so
live.
excited to have you here. Oh gosh, and I'm all of a sudden getting all the pings that I'm live.
Yes,
Anyway,
everybody.
whoa, I'm really popular. Anyway, but we're talking today about the unknown.
Yes,
And
and the unknown is also the fact that I didn't mention, I am a leadership coach and I'm an executive coach working with people, with leaders, team leaders, and teams. So we
yeah.
want to make that known.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So, well, we're talking about the unknown in the corporate leadership and development space, really.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, and you and I share a lot in that appreciation for what people are going through
Mhm.
currently and working with the unknown with our clients. And I think I wanted to make real right now that also the unknown for me is this live thing because
Yeah.
I'm on my first live with Katie's
Right.
support.
Right. Well,
So
we're live. Yeah. So, you're based out of the Seattle market, right?
yes.
Okay.
Yes, I'm in the Seattle market. I have been here for over 22 years working in the corporate world and deciding about 6 years to make a move towards leadership development because of the things I was seeing in organizations, how people's value, people talents were underutilized, the potential to connect teams and to really innovate was completely unutilized. And I'm a believer in human potential, and
Yeah.
I have a lot of passion around that. So
Hmm.
leadership coaching was the path. It was not a linear path for sure. It was a lot of unknown.
Yeah.
Speaking of the unknown, I
Hmm.
often get asked how I got here, and there are many strands and ways and
Yeah.
detours that got me here. And that's actually how we're connected, right, Katie, through that leadership development and
Exactly.
coaching world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, well, the last 2 years have dealt the world a hell of a lot of unknowns. Not just like what is this new thing that's happening in the world, and also the unknown of how do we deal with it. And not only how do we deal with it, how do we handle it in a way where we get to lead the people who are beneath us or
Hmm.
behind us to also be able to handle it well.
Yeah.
And we're now seeing this whole shift back into the workplace, kind of, and then people are revolting and leaving. And there's just a lot of unknowns in how the hell do you lead as you go forth. And I'm curious, what are like the main problems that you're seeing happen in this whole shift back to whatever the normal used to be?
Yes, yes. And I have to see that I've seen this moment happen for the last 2 years,
Yeah.
having had that background of working in this world and understanding. And we're there. We're at that
Right.
point where the shift is real, where there's no longer the past, right? We're moving into new future, and what we don't know what that is, right? And what I'm seeing different things. I'm seeing leaders who are companies, right, who and have tried a few times over last year, giving a strong message that we're coming back, people, we're coming back. The offices are opening, right? It's a very implicit message. We're expecting you in the building, right? I'm
Mhm.
hearing that. And a big range to the other end of the spectrum where we don't know. We don't know. We're gonna wait it out. We have
Mhm.
no direct guidance. I'm talking to people who are interviewing
Mhm.
employees, and the battle for talent, right? It's real right now,
Right. Well,
and they.
it's funny, all the companies that are making this big splash about we're going back to the office, recruiters are actually using that as a method. They wait to hear it and then they go and pick people off. They reach out and say, "Hey, I hear you're going back to the office. Do you want to go back to the office? Because if not, I have opportunities for you."
Good strategy. Yeah,
I
that's a
know.
good strategy, right?
Right.
Smart, right? Or this unknown, right? We don't know. We have no idea, right? We don't even disclose how we're thinking about it. But how are we thinking about it? So Um, so I think people are left in the dark, and there's like a range between either being too forceful, pushing people back to office, or just too loose about it, undecided. And people, it's risky, feels risky, right, to take a
Yeah.
bet on those companies.
Yeah.
So intentionality is, and I think we talked about this a bit, about how are we actually thinking about this? What
Right.
is our evolving philosophy? And I think it's more about less than having answer, more about our approach, right? What is the process by which we'll shape the new way of working?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, in a world where it's like it's really, really hard to plan on a social level, in a housing level, in all the different ways. Even just hearing from your employer that you can plan on one thing can be helpful one way or the other.
Yes. Yes. And the planning, you can plan on, us having conversations. I see
Right.
Luna.
I
Luna
know.
wants to get in the conversation here.
She doesn't know,
Uh,
and she likes knowing when she's gonna get food and when she's gonna get walks and when she's gonna get treats.
she wants to know, right? She does not want like the unknown. Katie, this makes me think of, there's simple problems. Um, there's problems like Luna's problems, right? There are technical problems, right?
Yeah, like where are you gonna
Katie,
sit on the couch?
Katie hopefully can provide a predictable schedule of meals and
Yes.
water and walks to Luna, right? That's like, and Katie became an expert. She's an expert right now, right?
You'd hope so.
You hope so, right? And we have a vast amount in the world of work, of technical problems that can be solved by that way of, like,
Mhm.
make a plan, execute, find problems, troubleshoot, right?
Yeah.
We're not in a this return to work is not a technical problem. It's adaptive challenge, right? It's something that will not be done by one plan, and this is it, right? So that's, we're moving into a very different type of leadership that is needed.
Yeah.
And
What you're saying, I'm just imagining like the leaders right now are requiring to be more flexible than they ever have
oh,
before.
yeah, yeah,
Like flexible and like ability to change like that.
absolutely. And ability to be okay not to have the answer,
Mhm.
and actually engage in a dialogue
Right.
to see what's in the room, in the virtual room, right? What are their voices, what are ideas are there, and how can we discern what's actually needed based on the different needs, right? Different
Right.
needs. We have needs for individual needs, people needs, but you also have team needs, right? We need to collaborate, and we know innovation can't happen, in this very disconnected way. We need that kind of collaborative innovation to whatever business challenges we have
Right.
to deal with those. But I'm kind of coming back to us, right? Going through the pandemic, right? What that was a big experiment for everybody, right? In this adaptive challenge, where
Mhm.
we had no recipe.
Right.
So, what are I'm curious about you. Like, what were some of the ways you dealt with it? What?
Well, I mean, I think the biggest challenge for me personally is that I'm an extrovert.
Hmm.
I'm an extrovert, and I just happened to be visiting my parents for 2 weeks in March of 2020, and I had previously given up my apartment in San Francisco, so I was kind of being a nomad for a year. And all of a sudden, I'm in my 30s and I'm living back with my parents. And I'm having to get my social time from being with them. And they're great people, but they're also my parents and they drive me crazy. And so then there's like having to turn to my friends and being like, can we socialize on Zoom? So finding technologies, like for a while, my friend group and I were doing we found this online
Mm,
platform where you play Cards Against Humanity
yeah.
together. So we'd
Yeah.
have a Zoom going and we'd be playing Cards Against Humanity together on Zoom.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
it was just like needing that social interaction. And
And
then,
you're running experiments, right? You are
yeah,
trying different things to
yeah,
see. Yeah.
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 With varying successes, there would be days where I would just be crying, like, what is happening to our world? Is it ever going to go back to normal? Are we all going to die? And then there would be other days it's like, okay, this is working. This filled that cup
Yeah.
enough. you know?
There was
Um,
also that reflection, right? Like that you needed to do some self-reflection. Is what works for me? What
oh, yeah,
doesn't, right?
yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah.
And then of course all the like funny experiments that we were all doing. I don't know if you got on the sourdough starter wagon. I was fully on that. I had Maud. I named her. She went strong for about 8 months there, but it was just yeah,
Yeah.
it was crazy. It's amazing. And I made these amazing friends on LinkedIn. I literally, like, the pandemic was my push to really get in touch there. And I have these amazing friendships with people that I still haven't actually met in person to this day,
Mm,
but finding different ways to fill those cups, and
yeah.
I'm so invested in LinkedIn these days that, like, if someone were to say you're too busy now, you can't do LinkedIn, I'd be very sad.
Yeah, it's part of, right? It's part of your tool set, right? That you develop, right? To stay
Yep.
connected, be connected, and to develop, right? A new way, adapting to a new way of being, a new world. And that's very similar to what teams and leaders can do, right? I mean, you included humor, right? Humor, creativity in dark times, right? That's necessary. It's an ingredient. We can't just go back in the office and do the same old things, or go back to some. I see Yvette is here.
Yeah.
Uh, hello from Delaware. Awesome. Hi Yvette. Welcome. Yeah. So it's I go back to those offsites and strategic meetings that I've been in, and the glaring neon lights, and the sometimes a window, most of the time no windows,
Yeah.
and really no spark, no creativity, and we need a balance, right? We need a balance of all, right? We need structures, we need creativity, we need connection, we need teaming, we need individual needs to be integrated, right? So
Yeah.
I'm kind of looking towards, I'm looking with a big lens on possibility, right? If
Mhm.
of what can we create right
Right.
now in the workplace,
Yeah.
and excitement.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And I love that you're pointing to all this stuff, but I'm thinking of this as a consumer. If I'm looking to do business with a company and I'm seeing them not be able to do this stuff,
Mhm.
I mean, I start questioning, like, okay, if they can't be adaptive with all these things going on when other companies are figuring it out and doing it, do I actually want to buy their thing? Because is it really going to be adaptive with me if they're not being adaptive? And then also, what's the service going to be like if they're not being adaptive and people are leaving? That's a lot of changeover. Am I gonna have a different account manager every single time I call?
Yeah. Yeah.
So companies really have to look at this not just from an employee retention uh, perspective, but from a getting business perspective because people are watching.
Yeah, the eyes, right? And it's so
Mhm.
transparent. In today's world, everything transpires. We have Glassdoor, we have a lot, right? So that's I love that. I love that, right? So it's beyond of course, I mean, your employees are your business, but it's
Yeah,
beyond that. It's your business,
yeah,
right? And the impact you have in the marketplace.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah,
Mhm.
I'll tell you a little bit about how I like some of my
Please.
adaptive techniques. I mean, it sounded similar in that when the pandemic started, I first of all, one of my things is like I kind of see what's coming. I see a few steps down the
Mhm.
road, and I'm going into this. Like, how can I invent new, ways to deal with this situation? That's how I operate, right? Everybody has a different way of being faced with the problem. I'm challenged with staying with the harder emotions, and that's the work I'm learning myself, to be okay to not be okay, right?
Yeah,
Everybody has a little bit of a different challenge,
yeah,
so I'm quickly trying to anticipate and create new solutions. And for me, it was so the same thing. I'm a very social person, and so probably in the first few weeks I started 4 experiments, really, of one in my daughter's school community, getting on a Zoom weekly with parents, one in local, my neighborhood,
Mhm.
And finally, from those 4 different initiatives, there's one that stuck, and I'd never expected it to be that one. I have a group of not close friends, but we haven't been that much in touch before the pandemic, but we got into this routine of meeting every 2 weeks outside initially, mostly outside for the last 2 years. And that's been really the thing that carried me through. And
Yeah.
we shared a background, so we went back into that like space of talking about our childhood and music from our childhood and all that. So that was one way to adapt.
Well, I love that you're pointing to this because it really points to what companies need to be doing now is acknowledging what has changed in their employees' lives. What new gems have kind of come out of this. So like for many employees, spending more time with their kids throughout their day because they're not commuting is so special.
Mhm.
And how do
Yeah.
you, even if you do need them to be back in the office for certain things, like how do you honor that?
Yes.
Because you can't ignore it. You can't ignore it and say, don't care, you're coming back to the office. Like there has to be some acknowledgement of, hey, this has been such a gift. And also, like, we need this. How can we make this work for everyone?
Yeah. And we need this, yes, and right, we need this, but why do we need this, right? We need you in the office is not good enough.
Right. No.
Why we need you in the office? We need you in the office because we think there are certain things, right,
Mhm.
that require us to be together, to understand each other, so we can roll our sleeves and work together on this task, right? Project, strategic plan.
Yeah.
We believe we're more creative that way. We believe that probably, a good majority of people actually need that personal connection every once in a while, and it's going to be a time of connecting. And the way I talk to my clients is I tell them it's time to invest, right? Is put money in the bank, in the connection bank, by
Yeah.
having occasional meetups, and then that carries through in the remote work, right? Because
Right.
that those connections persist. What's been happening, and I'm curious to hear what you've noticed, but
Mhm.
in the remote space, there's a lot of information that doesn't carry through, right?
Yeah.
That all the nonverbal communication, all the hallways, right? That
Mhm.
person took their left when they saw me in the hallway, right?
Right.
There's so much information that gets missed, or that person smiled and turned towards me when they saw me, right? That is missing. And our brain, what does our brain do when there's no information?
Makes
Makes
up
stuff up.
stories. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So I've met I've coached a few relationships where there are these stories that got created in the absence of physical presence, right? And people got to a point of conflict, and we had to untangle all those stories and get to the core,
Right.
you know, of what was real. The real was they're not in the same space, and there was no, so no ill intent, no, and
Yeah.
yes, there were some. We didn't, we did as professionals, we didn't learn how to manage these relationships and be proactive in communication in this space, right? So we
Right.
need to learn new skills. So that's the point, right? To learn to be together in this new way, we need some space, time together, and build those trust bridges.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I have a friend who's a fashion designer and, during the pandemic, they had to like look at colors digitally.
Mm.
But I don't know if like you've ever shopped online for clothes, like you're
Yeah.
like, "Oh, that's a gorgeous color." And then you get it and you're like, "This is hideous. I don't want this." So there are
Yes.
different
Many
ways in
times.
which companies are like, "Okay, cool. Like this part we do have to do in person, but this other
Mhm.
part doesn't necessarily have to be that way."
Yeah. Yeah. And
Mhm.
even that, right? The intentionality, right? You put it up for discussion, right? Is there any other way, right, to
Right.
get this creativity, this, collaboration, creativity in a different way?
Right.
Let's because this is what we want, right? That the gist of it, this is what we need.
Yeah.
Um,
So I'm
yeah.
curious, what do you see as the future for companies going forward in this
Mhm.
area of like bringing people together, like creating collaborative creative spaces? What do you see as the future for that?
Yeah. I see, and I am inspired by many thinkers, and I'm developing, I'm really have a clear sense of vision around companies learning to manage this, becoming, we're babies, toddlers in this space right now,
Yeah.
right? But and teams learning to much more dynamically navigate this move between co-located work and distributed work, right? Where there are this intentional coming together, and they can co-design and co-create as a team, right? As a team, they develop this, they own the design of how they're going to work together, right? Right? And the leaders, the team leaders, are those people who are facilitating this design approach to how they work together. This would be, in my ideal world right now, in this very moment, all the teams would come together and say, okay, how do we design the way we work together? We listen to each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
And every business has their own specific, then they'll come up with an approach. And it can be, occasional, frequent, could be biweekly, could be every other week, monthly. Let's come together for these purposes, right? And be clear about what those are. And these are the other tasks that we can do remotely, and that's fine. And this is how we'll be together. And at the source of this work is really defining who we are as a team, our team identity, right? So, because in a very similar way as people and individuals have an identity and a way of defining themselves and their beliefs, their fears, teams have identities. So who are we as a team? That's probably the first conversation that needs to happen. And that's ultimately the team culture. The work culture is very used, but nobody really can define it fundamentally. But it is an identity. What are our beliefs? What are our fears? What are the things we're hiding away as a team? Putting them more in the open.
Yeah. Well, what I love about this is that when someone is a part of a team that has an identity, I can imagine they're far more invested, far more loyal to that team. Like they're going to stay with it for a long time. They're going to grow with it. They're going to help other people grow within it, versus the old model that businesses really believe this is how we bring our business to scale is everyone's a cog in the machine and they can be swapped out easily. That no longer seems to be the model that is effective, or is even it's not effective. It's not producing great results for the employees, and it's in some cases inviting the unions in.
Yes. And it's, we know that's no longer effective. There's research that's no longer effective. So the matter is just leaders being brave enough, right, to step into the space of unknown. It is unknown, and to actually start rediscovering, right, a new way of working together where they listen more, right, where they're able to not be the one who knows and always has the answer, right, when they can actually be challenged and be okay and actually appreciate being challenged because they know new ideas and better ideas are going to come in. So that's the new model, right? That's and having a sense, there's always people, and we need anchors, right? It's like the unknown is scary enough, right? So having a shared sense of why are we here, right? Our sense of purpose, right? That why are we doing this? For the sake of what, and yes, the team owning this, right? How we are, how we're going to grow, right? Learning has to be out. I love the LOL, learning out loud, right? Yeah. So learning out in the open, owning, right? How we are, how we work together as a team is motivating, I think. Gives people ownership. Yeah.
It's I had a thought where to go. Well, there's a certain level of autonomy that mid-level managers in this model actually get to step into. They actually get to step into some power, but it requires a new set of skills where they get to speak truth to authority, tell their bosses what their teams need and advocate for them, which I think fosters greater leadership abilities that they can climb higher and do better work in higher ranks.
Yes. Yeah. And that's really one of the reasons many mid-level managers are leaving right now. So with this opportunity, oh, I have William from Nigeria. I'm
Yeah.
getting
Hello.
the
Welcome.
hi, William. Yeah, so that's right. It's a win-win, right? It's the team benefits, and you have retention there, built-in employee retention there, where you give leadership opportunities, right? And you lift leadership in the organization. Yeah, there's a report from like even 4 or 5 years ago that was showing people leaving because of that lack of development stretch opportunities, right? They were disengaged, people are disengaged, and when you create this collective sense of ownership for how the team operates, how the team performs, then it's a different ball game, right? It's a very different ball game.
Well, even on the employee level, if I'm an individual contributor and I'm part of a group of 10 people and we have to sit down at the table and design how we all work together and design like what expectations are, and we all have a say at the table. If I then apply for management, I've already been part of that conversation. And so it's so much easier to then lead that rather than me just doing my own job and staying in my own lane. And all of a sudden I'm a manager and I have no idea how to lead people, which is
Yeah.
the classic problem that happens in sales and engineering, in any org structure that you have individual contributors who are responsible for their own work and nothing else.
And yeah, and then the empowerment, right? That comes also with
Yeah.
I mean, how much permission right now to you contribute to this, you contribute, your ideas are welcome, your ideas are needed.
Mm-hmm.
So how much more innovative potential you're building in
Yeah.
the fabric of the team. Yeah, so I'm really excited by what's possible, right? Not seeing as a problem to be solved, right? But as a something, and that's what I want, leaders to move away from seeing things as problems they react to, right? Um, and getting in touch with, what are those fears and the things that get them in this very reactive mode, right? And then moving more towards where's the possibility, where's the opportunity here, right? To lead differently, to create something new, to empower others, to lift others,
Yeah.
and really, there's honestly, I mean, Katie, I'm curious, what you're thinking, because I don't see a different way, right? I don't see there's no other way to go about it in this, linear problem solving way where we're going to dictate this is how it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
It can be that way.
I mean, I think some companies will absolutely continue that way.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to continue to be the most innovative. I don't think
Mhm.
they're going to continue to have an advantage in the marketplace. I don't think they're going to be competitive in attracting top talent, because top talent wants a say. They want to, even if they're an individual contributor, they want to have their voice heard. And right now, we're moving towards this market, especially in employment, where employees get to say what they want and they're getting it.
They
Yeah.
are,
And
yes,
one of the
yes.
things that I'm seeing also with the unknown is that, even if a company can't necessarily say what the plan is going forward, if they're able to say, here's our top priority is your happiness,
Mhm.
at least employees can trust in that, especially if the company's, showing up in some other way and proving it.
Mhm. Yes, sure, right. You have to show it, right? You have to
Yeah.
back it up somehow,
Yeah. It's like
Yeah.
you can't post like, Black Lives Matter and, Black History Month, 1 month of the year, and then not do anything for diversity and inclusion the rest of the year. Just completely
Mhm.
hypocritical. You have to actually show up and do something to show your employees that you're caring about them.
Yeah, and it's so easy to see through those checking the box, right? People see it, people are savvy to see through it when a company is truly committed, and honestly, when a company is owning mistakes, right? Hi, Christian. Thank you,
Welcome.
Christian. Um,
Oh,
yeah, so employees are savvy now by now to see it, and really, I think part of the repertoire of being true is to own mistakes too,
right,
right?
right.
That's when you're actually reaching, higher level of integrity when you own the mistakes and you know, commit to
Well,
make
I
it
mean,
even better. Yeah.
case in point, like you can't have a creative environment if mistakes aren't allowed.
No. Yeah.
No one's going to be willing to try new things if making mistakes and failing is going to be super punished.
Yes. I love that. That's such an important point. And that's kind of, you asked me like, what's the, what I see going forward. I think I see teams be much more open about, the things that they want to develop and their shortcomings,
Yeah.
individuals, teams, right? Putting
Mhm.
that out, in the open and not covering their, ass in the, in
Not throwing people under the bus and blaming.
yeah, exactly. Because that becomes the work becomes that, right? Covering their mistakes and their
Mhm.
challenges
Yeah.
versus focus on the real work, which is their product or whatever they're creating, right?
Yeah.
So once you're able to reveal as a team, like this is what I'm struggling with, and leaders go first, right? Leaders go first, and it has to be authentic. Then we go more in that territory of mistakes are okay. How do we learn from them, right? What's to be learned from them?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's always this fear of, oh, if I'm gonna share my mistakes or my shortcomings, right? Then what? I'll be,
Oh,
yeah.
well, it's so instinctual to like make a mistake, have it happen, and have other people like have it happen in a way where people are going to find out that something went wrong. And your brain just automatically goes to how do I cover this up? How do I make myself look good? I did this. So my brain went through this last week. So I'm interviewing to create some more content for copywriters and lawyers because I'm getting more and more of them as clients.
Mm-hmm.
And I messed up something in my booking, and so people are getting booked over each other. And
Oof.
so I was
That's
able to very
amazing.
quickly fix it, but I already had these appointments set over each other. And I'm like, oh my God, like, what do I tell them? Do I tell them there was a mistake? And it's like, no, you tell them that you made the mistake, but it's like
Mhm.
I train on this shit. And I
Yeah.
also, my brain automatically goes to how do I not look bad?
Yeah. We do it, right? We do it. Yeah. I know. As you are talking, actually, I was thinking like, oh, look how good of a talk I give. I'm really good at like this theory thing, and I'm also I'm trying really as much as I can to what I'm preaching, but I'm also not I'm it's hard. It's
Yeah.
really hard.
Yeah.
We have these personas, right, that we've cautiously, carefully cultivated, right, and got us to a certain point, right.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden we actually have to say, actually not really. um, but yeah, there's a growth, right? That comes. There's a growth that is needed where we no longer define ourselves by how others are seeing us or by how we believe we're strong. Each of us have different beliefs of what makes us strong.
Right.
And we define ourselves more by, what really matters at the end of the day in my life, right? Or for our team.
Yeah.
That sense of direction, of purpose. Yeah, and speaking of the unknown, I remember this, we don't have a roadmap right now, but what we need is a compass, right? As
Yeah.
leaders.
Yeah. Said.
Yeah. And that's the sense of purpose, our values are that compass, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's essentially how you make decisions going forward. Yeah. Beautiful.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We're past a half
Yeah,
hour. Oh my
I
gosh.
know. Oh,
This has flown by. I'm curious, what's your final word of wisdom for anyone who's leading people right now?
oh, yes. Expanding that capacity to listen and asking questions and getting very curious about what's important for people. Individually and also for the team. So don't, both, right?
Mhm.
Speak to people, talk to people one-on-one, but then also get together as a team and listen to the collective, what's needed and what's important for them.
Great advice. And
Yeah.
if people wanted to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
My LinkedIn is
Beautiful.
the
Just linked
best.
here.
We're linked here, so
Yeah,
it's perfect. Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Maria, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been so much fun.
I don't know why I've waited. I thought me for over a year, but here I am, and yeah, it's been really fun, and we'll do it again.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, William and Christian and Yvette, for joining us today, and everyone else who watched but didn't comment. Thank you for watching. I'm Katie McManus, business strategist and coach. This is Maria Gerea, executive leadership coach. And we will talk to you all soon. Have a great Friday.
Bye.
And this is new, so I have to figure out where the end